Right. Okay then. So we'll get ourselves started. So welcome to the Commit Virtual Happy Hour. Basically, this is a chance to enjoy a drink at the end of the week with some like-minded folks and chat about a few of the hot topics that are out here on the in the industry at the moment. So this is very much of an informal discussion, potentially like you would have down the pub. So we're not really going to go for really fancy animations and crazy stuff, because you never have that. It's more of a chat with a few diagrams drawn on a beer mat or on the back of a cigarette packet. There are a few rules, of course, about here, which are normally unspoken down the pub. But I thought, as this is our first happy hour, that they're probably worth stating. 2 seconds, I just need to wet my whistle. Oh, that's good. I do like that sounds strong. So first of all, we're going to start with a few dialogues from a couple of very experienced people in this topic, have been willing to share their thoughts on what they can do within the home working world, what they've been doing, some of the hints and tips, perhaps some of the technologies to help you improve your experience. So in a pub, of course, it's polite for you to wait until the person that's finished speaking before asking any questions. So what you'll do is, if you want to add to that particular bit, or want to speak, or want to do something along those lines, what we'll do is, if you put your hand up in I think there's a chat window down here somewhere, and some questions you can ask and bits and bobs of the dashboard. I've got to admit, this is not my bit of technology. I'm learning as we go here. So do put your hand up and go, oh, can I add to that, or can I ask a question, or whatever it is, and we'll unmute you and see what happens from there. Also, if you've got something to add and you want 5 minutes to stand up and talk to the bar about certain things, then not a problem. Ping us a message and we'll get you up on the rest of the chat. If there's a topic that you fancy championing next Friday, and you want to spend 10 minutes chatting about it in front of the virtual bar with a beer, a gin, or a wine, please do drop me a line, and we'll set up the same thing for next week. Similarly, if you've got any suggestions to make it work better, please do drop me a line. We're learning as we go. And finally on there, beer, wine and gin, of course, are essential for Friday afternoon creative thinking and relaxed talking. So if you haven't poured yours, you better get it in the glass now. And what we're going to do is, the first person to the bar is Sue Butcher, who's been working from home for most of her career, as well as having the benefits of learning from one of the early home working pioneers, her mother. So over to you, Sue, and I'm going to make you the presenter.
Thanks very much.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I've clicked the wrong button.
Wait for you to press the right button.
Oops.
There we are. Hello. Yeah. Just to say, yes, I've been running my consultancy for 9 years, and when I started working from home, actually it was because I started using technology, the sort of technology you can use. Before that, for various reasons, like I joined Twitter in 2008, but I had to work from home for a while because I couldn't actually travel for a bit. And then when I set up my consultancy, I asked my mum for advice, because she spent more than 20 years running a translation business from home. So what I'm going to do is I did put together something for a webinar that had slides and all that flashy stuff 2 weeks ago, which we did, but I thought I'd do a whiteboard, and because I've only got 10 minutes, I've written it already. So I'll take a screenshot of this and share it, and you can share it around. But anyway, these are the important thing about working from home, is realizing primarily that you're going to take one part of your life and mash it together with another part of your life. So I'm going to talk about the practical aspects of that, the emotional aspects, and then very briefly managing people who are working from home. Some of you will probably be doing that And then video conferencing, obvious things you're probably not doing, but you ought to be doing as well, and a few tools in. So if we start with the practical stuff, this is all about making space. Instead of trying to mash together work, not work, we're going to make a little space in your home to do the work. And this is the thing that but the reason they advise it is because so much of what you do, you're going to need to shut off into a separate space. So find yourself a space where you can shut the door. And that might be, I mean, I'm in the back part of the through lounge that we split back up into 2 rooms in a terrace house. But it was a dining room. But you can use a spare bedroom, or you can use the end of your bedroom. Choose a space that isn't in use during the day so that you don't interfere with the other things that are going on in the house at the time. Of course, there will be things, and that's why if you've got a door, so that's the first thing. Can you shut the door? I've got the door shut now. Okay. Second thing is obviously power, Wi-Fi and tech. You'll need to be near sockets. And what about Wi-Fi? Have you got Wi-Fi? Can you connect direct to your broadband to improve your transmission? Can you tether to your phone if you're working for as an employee? Does your phone have unlimited data so it doesn't matter? Can you get a good signal? All that sort of thing you need to sort out. And we've got broadband to the cabinet now, which is good. So I've got really good broadband. And obviously, when you think about tech, if you're an employee, it's your boss's job to provide you with the tech. But obviously, everyone's sort of muddling along at the moment, and you need to sort of use whatever works for you, and don't get too precious about that. So that's the practical stuff, and then ergonomics, the last bit. And you'll have had a test like this, but basically, it's wonderful to learn. Start with the chair, otherwise it gets complicated. Get yourself a chair where you can sit with your feet flat on the floor, and then your lap is horizontal, so your knees are at 90 degrees, and then your chair is at the right height. And then find somewhere to put your laptop or computer where you can put your hands on the keyboard with your elbows at 90 degrees and like this, because then you don't get RSI. And of course, that means you could find a table, stick it on some books so that it's high enough. It's easier to move a table up and down than it is to move a chair up and down. And then after that, think about where the screen is, and the top of the screen should be at eye level. So if you've got a laptop, you'll end up putting your laptop on books, or you can get a separate screen. And if you're doing that, of course, you should get a separate keyboard. So you might need a separate screen to get the screen at the right height, or a keyboard to get the keyboard at the right height, so that there's a difference between where your hands are and where your eye height is, and that distance is important. That way you won't get neck strain. Okay, so that's all practical, that's fine. That's the easy stuff. The difficult stuff is the emotional stuff. And lots of you, if you haven't been before, will be working perhaps with a partner at home, perhaps with children at home, perhaps both. And this is all about setting boundaries and making them, agreeing them, sitting down with people in the household and agreeing when you're going to be working, when you're not going to be working, so that everybody understands what everyone involved is doing. It's a compromise, and everyone should accept that anyway. But in order to slide into working from home relatively easily, I recommend you try, number one, to mirror the routine that you did at work. And I found a picture of a man standing next to the bath with his hand on the shower rail, listening to his iPod or his iPhone like this, as if he was commuting to work. Because you should try and mirror the same routine. So get up at the same time, have breakfast the way you normally do, and instead of going out of the house to do some exercise, start work at the same time, finish work at the same time if you can. Start doing that and then adapt it as necessary, but that will help you and your colleagues that you're working with ease into working from home, and that's what I did. The second thing is work when you're working and don't work when you're not working. Okay, and having the door open and closing is part of that. If you need to not to be disturbed, you can shut the door. But at least if you agree with everyone in the house when you'll be working and not, you can have the whole relationship about, you know, Daddy's working now until 11:30, and then he'll open the door and he can come and see you, and then you can make time for your family as well, and try and separate those things out as much as possible. Number 3 is communicate. You actually, when you work from home, you cut yourself off quite a lot from everyone else. So remember to ring people up when you would normally chat to them at work. So if you have a normal time when you catch up with people like this, then communicating is absolutely essential for your mental health and for everyone else's, because everyone feels much more confident when they talk to each other, that they know what's going on. So keep talking, and don't forget the phone, because it does work. Number 4 is look after yourself, and this is all about taking plenty of breaks, getting up and moving around. If you've got an iWatch, it will tell you to get up every hour anyway. Go and have a cup of tea outside the room, and make space for yourself. And the last one is don't work longer hours. It's surprising, actually, people who work home tend to work longer hours, and it's worth remembering that apparently you only do 3 hours of productive work if you work in an office. People try and compensate because they feel like they're not doing enough work by doing more. So you should stop work at the right time and then go and do something to wind down. So instead of the commute, go out for a walk if you're allowed to go around the garden, do some exercise, do some baking, that's what I do. Something that brings your work time to an end, and also, of course, make spaces during the day to take breaks as well. Because if you start work at 8 instead of at 9:30, you're an hour and a half ahead. So don't do extra work. Okay, so that's the practical and emotional stuff. A bit about managing staff. This is all about building and maintaining trust, because you're going to be cut off from the people that you see every day, and they're going to be feel cut off as well, and it's your responsibility to support them. So the main things are communicate, really important again, but do it more and do it in a structured way. So for example, have a weekly team meeting online instead of in person, if you usually have a weekly team meeting. If you talk to the people who work for you regularly, make sure you call all of them every day, at least once, so that they know what's going on. The second thing is support, don't spy. You may have heard that people got very upset about Zoom being able to tell whether people are attentive and not in meetings. All of these tools do that. There's even a tool called Sneak, which allows you to take a photograph with the camera on somebody's machine every few seconds, so you can keep an eye on them. Of course, it's presented as everyone can see that everyone's there, which is great, but it's also spying, and it's a complete false economy. If people feel that they're not being encouraged and supported, then they won't perform properly for you. Third is tone of voice, and this is one reason to get out of emails, because emails and text messages is very easy, and Twitter tweets as well, it's very easy to misinterpret what people are saying, and you'll notice that more if you're using email and stuff more, because you're not talking to people as much. I use emojis in tweets occasionally when I'm joking, because I've discovered that people don't realise that I'm joking and they take it seriously. So bear in mind tone of voice, take time to make sure you actually understand what people are going on about. And that's where eye contact and all these video conferencing things are important. And lastly, security. One of the reasons why people don't do working from home, don't allow it, is for security. Now, things have changed quite a lot, all of a sudden actually. National Cyber Security Centre has a guide to home working, which is all about devices and firewalls and all that stuff. And it also assesses some apps too, and it's really worth having a look at. Okay, so that's management. Lastly, a bit about video conferencing. This is all about making a structure, because if you take the structure of a meeting where people are there in person, you don't have that anymore. You need to maintain a structure when people are in lots of different places. So the first thing is obviously close your door. Do you remember that guy who was live on BBC News from the Far East and his toddler came in the room? That's another reason to have a door. Think about your background. Do you like, I like fittings. They were in the house when we moved in, we never changed them, they're terrible. But you can, if you use Teams, then you can blur your background. And there's a competition going on as to who can have the trendiest books on the shelf behind them. So think about your background, don't share anything you don't want to. Test your audio and video like we did today before you join, and do turn your camera on, and because eye contact is very important, and I know we're not able to do that today, but we will be in future. And keep meetings short and structured, have an agenda, and facilitate well, because people can disappear out of an online meeting much easier than they can if they had to get up and walk out of a room. So it's important for whoever's facilitating the meeting to make sure that everyone's included, and ask people and check up on them and so on. And share your screen. Screen sharing is great. A useful tip that I picked up from, who was it? Andrew, what's his name? Project manager. I saw him run a meeting where he was writing notes, and he actually had the notes he was writing shared on the screen. That can really keep people to the agenda and also provide ownership and responsibility, because if you put in the minutes and everyone can see John is going to talk to Peter, and John doesn't think he is going to talk to Peter, then he can always say, I can't talk to Peter, can you do it? And you can keep to the structure and time of the meeting. Okay, so they're the main 4 points, and just to finish up, a couple of tools. Tools to help you communicate. Microsoft Teams, anyone who's using 365 is probably being pulled into using Teams, and Teams is good because it's got calls and it's got meetings, and it's got a sort of project planning option. You can use other apps in it, so it's good, but it is difficult, technical, and some might say the onboarding is hard. I stopped using Skype when Microsoft took it over, because they completely screwed up the fact that people have business and personal Skype accounts, and even now people dial into business calls with personal accounts and can't get it to work. So I moved to Zoom then, and I've been using Zoom for about a year, and it's fine. Yeah, it was relatively easy to use. And the last thing is Slack. If you haven't tried Slack, if you want to have any sort of group discussion about something, then don't do it on email, because email is useless. Some of you know right now, I wrote an article about the never death of email, because you can copy people in, leave them out by mistake, blind copy people in, passive aggressive copy people in. People fall out of the conversation, no one can find the thread. Slack deals with all of that, and it's really easy to start using. So it's a fantastic tool for conversation and planning and discussions and all that sort of thing. And then in terms of managing things, a couple of tools that I used when I started. If you don't have company tools available online in the cloud, and all of these are either free or relatively low cost per user in the cloud, is Toggl. Toggl is a timesheet style tool, which I think all architects should use because they hate doing timesheets. Fantastic, been using that for years. Todoist is a to-do list. Again, useful, free to use for one person. You can share with people. It can keep you on track. Trello, everyone probably knows about Trello, but essentially it's a bit of project management using cards on a board, and some people I know find that really difficult because it's so capable of doing so many different things. Working out how to use it can be quite difficult. Now there's a separate tool, called Monday, which is another sort of project planning tool, and of course you'll have your big ones, that's fine. But Monday is used quite a lot by people I know who do web development, and that can show you who's available and what they're working on and all that sort of stuff. So that's absolutely fantastic too. So that's it from me. Any questions?
Fantastic, thank you very much, Sue. Some really interesting things going on there. Now, we've had some questions coming up and down as we're going on. Most of them are slightly odd. They're about cookies and home baking, and is wearing your PJs in the office acceptable? So I'm not sure there's any serious ones in there. What I will do is, if anybody wants to open the mic and ask Sue a question, please. At the moment, I can't seem to be able to get the chat. Now, I've got chat, but it doesn't look like anybody else has got the chat window opening. So, are there any?
Ian, we can do that. We can do that, Ian.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to raise their hand, we can just click on. We just click on the icon in the attendees column, and it will open it up. Let me just see. Who wants to ask a question? We got Jerry in there. Can Jerry say, hang on? No.
Oh, I see. There's a little raised hand button.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotcha. There we go. Sharika's got a raised hand. So I'm just going to unmute Sharika. All yours.
I just wanted to say hello to everyone because I don't get to talk to you guys or see you.
Oh, hello, Sharika. I hope you're well.
Yes, I am. It's nice and sunny, actually. I just logged on this because Coins was having a program on anxiety for the global staff. So I did that session, and then I thought I'd log into this just to say hi and see how things are. I didn't realize what the agenda was, but I thought I'd just say hi. Hi, Sue. Nice to see you.
Hiya. Yeah, nice to see you. Although I can't see you.
So I know. Just a quick question. I read the other day about Zoom and its data protection, and I've not used Zoom at all. It was only yesterday I used Zoom for the first time because our course that we had was on Zoom. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's something that the press have picked up on, Zoom in particular, because of course everyone's talking about using Zoom right now, so they've been digging around.
Yeah.
And actually, when you look at any of these apps, any app that is free or virtually free to use, they will have in their terms and conditions that they can access your data, your personal information. It may contain personal information. That applies to pretty much everything. In fact, I think it's worth looking at the National Cybersecurity Centre advice, because they've definitely reviewed Teams. I think they've reviewed Zoom and Slack as well.
Yes.
And they are less complimentary about the smaller apps. But the reason for that, of course, is that their business model is partially data related. Although I would say that if you're an Adobe user, you've already signed up to let Adobe have access to everything on your computer. I mean, literally, their terms and conditions are appalling. And so my husband doesn't even like me using, Adobe PDF tools because you have to give permission. So I think it's a question of a balance, and it's a business decision. On the whole, I think people don't think about it. I think it is a big issue, but most people give permission for their data to be shared because they want to use the tool. So that's
okay. That's fair enough. No, I just wanted to ask you because I have not used it, and I just saw the other day about it, because I know Coins uses Teams, so we've started using Teams and we've done away with Skype. So it was interesting just to find out that. Yeah. Can I ask one more question?
If it's a quick one.
How are construction companies with the lockdown managing now to get more work? How are they working, and how would they work in a situation like this?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that question myself. I think that, my personal opinion, I think one of the problems is with construction companies is that they have, particularly the bigger ones, if they can, they've furloughed all their staff, including all their comms staff, and disappeared off the face of the earth. And that this is going to be a big problem for them because they haven't thought about what's happening to their customers and their suppliers and their all sorts of other people, like people they're providing warranties to, and everyone's so connected. And I think at the end of it, when we come out of the end of it, the people who thought about how to communicate with their entire, audience, doing it will come out of it looking much better. But as far as getting work is concerned, if they're still monitoring emails.
Splendid.
Yeah, I know it. It was just a question for interest purposes. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. We've got a question here from Jonathan Norman. I'm just going to unmute your mic, Jonathan, if I can.
Hi. Thanks, Ian.
Splendid. It worked.
Yes, it did. Yes, yeah. I wondered too, and indeed anybody else on the conversation, whether you had any sense of what's happening during the lockdown, because I think there's some anecdotal evidence that productivity levels for those who are still working have gone through the roof, and I don't know whether that's just because we're all working virtually, or indeed it's because all of our usual decision making and governance procedures have been reduced, or what. But do you have the same sense? And if so, how do we capture this? How do we make sure we don't go back to normal levels of productivity after the whole thing's over?
That's really interesting. Yeah, and I think there's certainly a sense that a lot of people who wanted to work from home because they thought they'd never get any work done in the office because everyone's always calling them or emailing them, have probably found that working from home, if they can sort out the logistics of doing it, makes them immediately much more efficient because they can actually get the job. They're not in an open plan office being harassed all the time. Mm-hmm. So I think it's quite likely that's the case. As far as how we can hang on to it, I mean, there may be other reasons for it as well. The people, the people who are working more productive, partly because they've got a heck of a lot more to do. They're rushing around like mad trying to sort stuff out because the 3 other people who work for them have been furloughed to save money. Yeah. And then of course they're vacillating around making decisions. They're just saying, oh shit, let's just do it. Like I said to Stuart, let's just do it. Just don't put off. Do it, because we don't have time. Do it. Sort out the problems later, but let's get something out there. And as long as you do that, sincerely and with due diligence, then that's okay. But there is a problem there. Potential problems arising. But I think that I think it would be good to certainly retain the value people have got, the proven value people have from working from home, particularly when the schools go back. You can't now say that it's not going to work if it has worked. So that's one thing in favour of keeping that productivity. And the other things I think we'll learn different behaviours. The world did not come to an end because they made a decision without asking 6 other people, and that will stick with us, I think.
Brilliant, excellent. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to Tim now.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sue, and we will see you in the pub next week. Super.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hand over to Tim Westgate from BAM. He's going to talk us through a few of his experiences with remote working from home within the organisation. Tim, are you there?
Yep. Hi, everyone.
Get you to share your screen, if I may.
Can you guys see that okay? Because I'll just run with that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, go for the note slides.
Okay, so spoiled the surprise. I was going to say that's me in the pub. Nice handsome guy, but I didn't have any pictures of me in the pub, so I tried to cheat, but I can't lie. That's me. So hi everyone. I'm Tim Westgate. I'm the UK construction site IT manager for BAM Nuttall, BAM UK. and I've been doing this role since March. It's a brand new role for me. I've been with BAM for 13 years. And I got the role for construction site IC manager for the UK. And as such, I look after setting up, my team looks after setting up all the construction sites and offices and projects across the UK for BAM Nuttall, BAM Construct, BAM FM, and BAM PPP. So quite a lot to do. Just a quick bit about BAM. So for those of you who are not aware, BAM is a Dutch-owned construction company. 2019 revenue was around €7 billion. We have 10 operating companies with around 20,000 employees, and we're working in 30 countries worldwide with 5 European home markets. And as I say, I'm looking after the UK, and there's similar people to me in the other countries as well. And obviously, the whole COVID-19 kind of epidemic has stressed us and stretched us and tested our robustness as a company. And when I saw Ian's and Stuart's email to say, have you guys got any ideas or thoughts on a webinar or any kind of or the next workshop, then I couldn't resist, really. I wouldn't normally reply, I've got to be honest with you, but I thought, well, you know, we're all working so differently now that this has to be a topic of conversation. You know, how are we doing it? How are we succeeding? Maybe how are we failing? How are different people achieving what we're doing? We all have to do it at the drop of a hat. And yet, from my experience in BAM, we've coped remarkably well. And I thought, you know what? Let's give that some thought. Let's put some thought into that. Well, why are we doing okay? Why is it not being such a drama for us in terms of kind of disaster recovery and business resilience? And just to give you some stats, we've seen a 52% increase in home working, a 40% increase in digital signature usage, and a 50% increase in adoption of cloud solutions. And that's all been reactive. That's kind of reacting the conditions and the new working environments that we have to work in. And I, as I said, gave it some thought. Break this down then. What are the key areas that perhaps are responsible and what we've had to deal with to make this successful, to actually make it work? And I got to say, this is only my thoughts, these are my opinions. You know, it's going to be different for every person and every company. But for me, when I looked at it, I thought, well, hardware policies, and after this, I'm going to drill down a bit deeper into each one of these. Hardware policies, cloud services, supply chain, robust infrastructure, seamless VPN tunneling, and remote collaboration tools, including e-signature. And I think those 6 areas are the key fundamental areas that are making us, or giving us the ability to continue functioning as a company. Skip to the next slide. So if we drill down a bit into these areas, so hardware policies, a few years back now, actually, and it could be fluke, accident, or just good luck, but we did have a mixed environment of hardware, so we had laptops and desktops, and we made a conscious decision at that time. We had an aging estate of desktops, and we looked at it and we said, you know what, let's just not bother with desktops anymore. Let's just give people laptops, and that's put us in good stead in the current situation. So the majority of our people, something like 95% of our people, are using laptops now. So in terms of picking your laptop and going home, you know, that's proved to be very, very useful in the current circumstances. Cloud services, again, these are all kind of things that we're in the pipeline that we're moving towards, and they've all borne fruit, if you like, in the current situation. So our company adoption of Office 365 and moving our email to the cloud, that was all very fortuitous. We've done that over the last 12 months. We've, and as mentioned there, 50% increase in staff adoption of that. Again, VPN tunneling. So we played around for a few years with different tunneling, Secure Envoy and tokens and different methods of tunneling into our network. And in the end, we landed with direct access. And I have to say, direct access is superb in that if you have an internet connection, then you have access to the network. And that, again, you know, has proved invaluable really in the way that we're working. So pick your laptop up, go home, go to McDonald's if you need to. If you have an internet access, then you can connect to your network. We did have some challenges. We carried on functioning very well, but we did have to do a small investment in our DA server farms, and we had to increase our pool of DA tokens. But apart from that, actually, everything was working very well. Remote collaboration tools, so Teams. I know Sue mentioned Teams. We've seen a massive, 50% increase in the usage of Teams across our business now because of people working from home. And I have to say that over Skype, I prefer Teams any day of the week in terms of the quality of the meetings that we have, and the ability to collaborate in sharing documents between teams, being able to work on the documents at the same time. So that has been fairly critical in our success. And again, digital signatures, now that's kind of gone up to 40%. We've had legal teams and HR now in a situation where they have to sign documents, and in the construction industry, it can be a bit of a kind of a paper making industry, if you like. So digital signatures and e-signing of our documents, as the uptake has gone through the roof. Internal infrastructure, our data centers, we were already investing in increasing our fiber capacity for our internet circuits, and that's put us in good stead with all the additional traffic. And then finally, supply chain. Now, one of the surprising, and maybe it shouldn't have been surprising, but the effects when China initially kind of started suffering from the COVID-19 outbreak, one of the biggest impacts for us was because we use HP. I'm sure it's not just HP, I'm sure it's a lot of other hardware manufacturers as well. A lot of the components come from China. So the first thing they said was, we're not going to be able to honor the orders that you have in for your hardware. And what got us, or kind of bail us out, was a decision we made going back probably about 6 years ago to introduce min-max stock levels on our hardware. So what we did was we took a minimum, we would always have a buffer, because we took a minimum number, and whatever that was, 100, 200, could be anything. And when we reached that minimum number, even before we run out of stock, we would order some more stock to our maximum stock levels. So what it did, it had the effect of flattening out the impact of spikes of demand and fluctuations in supply. So in terms of hardware, even though we're seeing shortages from China on components and hardware, we're actually faring quite well. And then I thought, right, if we boil it down to, you know, the kind of common denominators, what are the fundamentals? And for me, it came down to three things. That is agile working methods, things like direct access, laptop adoption across the workforce, and e-signature. Robust infrastructure, so DA servers, data center and bandwidth capacity, and cloud-based core services such as Office 365 and email and Teams. And I think those three areas are what is keeping us running and keeping us productive at the moment. Thank you. Cheers.
Very much, Tim. Some really interesting points there. I was wondering, not specifically a question from your slide deck there, but we see obviously a lot of the office-based staff being able to work remotely and do things online and the like. Obviously, a lot more of the site-based people are either unable to do their job, or whether unwilling or not wanting to take the risk of those.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a big change in that? Are they trying to find different ways of working?
For BAM, the majority of our sites are still open. Belgium being an exception. Belgium furloughed their staff. Basically, the government took over. But for the rest of the operating companies, we're still fairly business as usual. Our construction sites are still open. We're practicing social distancing, and you know, all the good practice that we need to be practicing under certain circumstances. But yeah, we're operating. Our suppliers, our supply chain, so the people who kind of maintain so we've got our logistics companies and our connectivity companies. They're all still working. They're still all attending sites where needed.
Yeah.
So we're actually functioning. So from a construction perspective, we're still functioning. Yeah.
So I think it's interesting there that the way, because I suppose the site is a very controlled environment, you control what PPE people wear. where they go, how they do it, and it's all controlled with method statements and risk assessments, etc. That you're able to control that and keep going, whereas a lot of other businesses can't do that because they don't have the discipline that potentially BAM and other suppliers and other delivery partners do.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
Obviously, we're following governmental guidelines, so we're staying in line with that.
Yes, yeah, I think that's really important to keep that and flatten the curve as and where we got. So I've got a hand up here from Paul McMahon. I'm just going to unmute you, Paul. Hopefully that has now unmuted you and you can speak.
Oh, hello there. Yeah, sorry, I put my hand up a long time ago, actually. I
hope it was for Sue and not me.
No, not at all. I suppose you've answered quite a lot of the questions anyway, because I mean, obviously, it's all about what technology suits your particular company and organization. And I found both Teams and Zoom pretty good, to be honest. Teams, obviously, one of the things I'm finding is that due to issues of, say, I'm an academic, so students that we have, some of them are part-time and working for employers, and some of them using works laptops, and of course firewalls prevent Zoom getting through. And also another aspect that I wasn't familiar with was some companies are finding that due to the data requirements and their server space, they can't use the technology during normal working hours. So their laptops, if you like, are being blocked off until after, say, 5 p.m. in the evening. So they're doing a lot of normal hours for the bandwidth on the servers at the workspace. And so I was just wondering, is that a common problem that industry is facing, or is it just certain companies?
I think it's quite common, that sort of technical issues that on the bandwidth and the like. I think this is actually it's well queued up actually, Paul, because Tony Shooter, our final man at the bar today, is very much from the technical communications world, and has got some interesting ways to improve that bandwidth and potentially the connectivity of the people trying to collaborate over this slightly more remote working practice. So thank you very much for that. Very, very handy indeed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you, Tim, for your really interesting presentation. And if there are any questions further on that, if you want to contact us at the Commit Team Direct, and then we'll channel those questions through to him on there. So, Tony, you're up at the bar next. Hopefully you've got a full glass of beer with you. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks very much, Ian. Can you hear me all right? Or?
Yeah, all good.
Lovely. Yeah, sorry. My name's Tony Shooter. I've been in telecommunications for around about 20 years now. I've got clients which range from small businesses, construction companies, right the way up through to the NHS. For me, it's been a phenomenally busy time. We've moved hundreds of people from working from offices to their home environment. And one of the key things for us in the telecommunication industry is to make it as if they were in the office using telephony. And telephony is still a key tool. It sometimes gets forgotten. We have mobiles, but not everybody has great mobile signal. If you're in their homes in particular, or the area that they're in is over congested with mobile technology. So telephony, it's important. It's still a key tool, and we've come a long way in that 20 years in terms of what we used to have. But a lot of our clients still have the legacy systems in place. So we have to come up with some very inventive ways to be able to get them to go from their traditional systems, which are geographically fixed to where they are in that location, to IP telephony, which can allow you to actually roam around and take that device, that telephone number with you wherever you go. And that's been quite a challenge because in terms of old technology, as we would have it, you have everything from a single telephone line, what we call PSTN, public switch telephone network, which can be a single line or multiple lines, to ISDN, which is digital, through to ISDN 30, and then also SIP trunks coming into one single location. To get around those legacy systems, we've kind of like done a number of different solutions, which may or may not be helpful to people out there. Where most of it's diverted, so you ring up your carrier and get an admin divert on it, or with just a single line, you can use things like Star21 service, which then you put the number in and it would actually divert the number across to another mobile telephony or an IP device. And we've also done things where we can actually build an auto attendant in the cloud. So you press 1 for one person, press 2 for another person, press 3 for another person. It directs it to different mobiles or different landlines. So we've done that. We've also been able to divert these geographically static telephone systems and places to individual IP telephony licenses. So the call comes in and it goes to their desktop or their mobile, and they would answer it as if they were in the office. And that then allows them, when they call out, we can spoof the number and then call out with their general number in the office. We've come up with, when they're in the home environment, with a lot of obstacles. I know a lot of you out there are using tools such as Teams and Zoom and Skype, but they tend to be very bandwidth heavy, and they're all right for the occasional use. But when they've got the kids at home as well, and they're using the Xbox and those type of devices, they're also bandwidth hungry, or they're Skyping their friends. The bandwidth tends to go down quite drastically. And so those bandwidth hungry applications and tools like Teams and Zooms, they're useful, but as the network gets more congested, and more congested, it becomes harder and harder to use them, especially over when people are using their own home broadband, which is really designed for residential use rather than a business application. It can become quite tough for people to get not dropping out, get what we call clipping, where you get like this kind of normal collier for the older people in the audience. Yeah, so, and also they can be also intrusive. I know that you can blank out the background of it, but you know, like you said, like Sue said, people are looking for books and what you've got on your shelves, what your home decoration is like, and those type of things. Whereas telephony doesn't have that issue. You've kind of just got the pure audio. So some of the things that we've come up with, some problems that come in with telephony, with terms of broadband. A telephone call is very, very small in terms of a data packet. It uses next to nothing. The only thing that it has to do has to get in there on time. When we've hit people like Virgin and Sky, and providers like that, they tend to kind of block voice traffic. So we've had to get the users to phone up and get those ports kind of unblocked from those providers, so that the telephony can actually go through. That's one issue that we've had. The other issue we've had is obviously other users on the home broadband. The phones, when they take the physical phones home, is that they can't plug them in because the router isn't in the place where they had them. So what we have is also an application which goes onto the desktop, which looks like the phone, acts like the phone, and you can do everything that you can do with the phone. So you can hold, transfer, make a call. You can actually see if other people that are not in your location are actually on the phone as well. So it's as if you're in the office. I don't want to go on too much because we've done an awful lot with like I say, hundreds of users, and we've had little problems. I'm kind of keen to hear what your issues are working from home. I'm using telephony, and you know, what is inhibiting you, and try and answer those questions, and if we've come across it and how we've actually solved it. So that's me, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. Some really interesting things there. It's obviously a big issue, as Sue was saying earlier, being able to move between the home phone or the home Skype or your private Skype into your office phone, your office Skype, your office, whatever that might be, and keeping that fine line between the two. Can be quite tricky, especially I remember early days of using VPNs and the like, where my home broadband and activities was faster than the office one, purely because it didn't have to go through all the security protocols and bounce out of America and bounce back into the UK. So I was always very tempted to use my home one rather than the office protocol. But as you say, really important to be able to do that and to be able to adjust it to be able to see that. So if anybody's got any questions for Tony on that now, or if not, there we go. We got one from Max there. Hang on, Max. I'm just going to try and flick through on this without doing something stupid, which is probably what I would normally end up doing on here. There we go. I think you can. I think you can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Very faintly, but yes.
Can people hear me? Hello.
Ah, that's better.
Perfect. It was just picking up on the idea of bandwidth and people working remotely and having lots of people all hitting the same, say, resource at the same time. Certainly as an SME, it's something that we are challenged with regularly. We have 75 people working remotely from 3 different locations around the world, all coming back to a single site here in the West Midlands. And we have seen with people on VPNs that our bandwidth has been absolutely maxed out. One of the very simple and quick things we implemented was stopping people so much working on their machines at home if they didn't need to. We have a couple of machines within the office which allow them to remote desktop in and utilize there. And suddenly, rather than trying to synchronize large files over the VPN, we found that they were able to then, in real time, use something like a remote desktop connection, which was using a maximum of 2 megasecond. And suddenly our bandwidth improved massively. So much so that we have 75 people all working simultaneously on 100 megabit up and down fiber connection, which is fantastic.
So, Tony, just
sorry, Ian, just to ask a VPN question. What we tend to do with VPNs is actually take the telephony out of the VPN and let it just go over the internet, because people's VPN resources are finite. When we come across a VPN, we just redirected the audio out of the VPN and straight out to the internet.
One of the other big things that we found with the VPN is people still use their computers at home whilst connected to the VPN, not realizing what they're doing. And we especially around lunchtime, we saw our bandwidth absolutely maxed out, and it's because people were jumping onto Netflix and YouTube, and suddenly all the data was routed through our office. So one of the things we did very quickly was jumped onto our VPN provider and actually put in what's known as quality of service, or QoS. So anything that was going out to YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Netflix, Hulu, or any of these services, we actually then put a policy in that filtered the connection down to 0. So suddenly people, if they were trying to go to youtube.com, were finding that the page just wasn't loading. We then sent out an email to explain, if the page isn't loading, it's because you're not using the VPN right. Please disconnect if you're trying to use it for non-work reasons.
Perfect. I think that's a lot of the time it is just people not quite understanding what to do, or not flicking or not turning one thing on and one thing off, and not wanting to change at the time. So yeah, no, good. So Tony, just one more thing on there. When we were talking earlier, you said there was something potentially as an offer for Commit members that might be able to help them along the line?
Oh yeah, I've negotiated with the networks to provide free IP licenses, up to 10 per company, to kind of help them out within this period. So basically, it's an app that goes on there, and it can mimic your phone in your office. So it will give out your office phone number, but also you'll be able to see other people that you're working with presence as you would do. It's got lots and lots of features with it, voicemail to email. It is to keep this as if you were in the office kind of policy in there. So you'd be using it as if you were in the office. So you'd be shooting out your office number. You can transfer, conference call with it. There's call logging with it, so you can see all calls going in, all calls going out. It links with Microsoft Outlook for your contacts. So yeah, that's it's our way within the telecommunications industry to kind of help the construction sector, really.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Tony, on that. So if you are a Commit member and you want to take advantage of that, that's pretty cool offer on there. Nice freebie. Please do get in contact with either myself or Tony, and we'll be able to get that set up. So what we're just about finished. I wanted to bring up one last little bit on here. There's some webinars coming up, some free webinars in the next couple of weeks.
Anyway, okay. I'll talk through it. I'll talk through it because I've got it written down anyway. We've got a webinar coming up next Wednesday at 11:30. Controls. We've got 2 sessions, each of 10 minutes worth. So there'll be a notice going out very shortly on that one. So please tune in for that. I'm even tempted to do a similar open mic as we've done today, because that's worked quite well. Normally we get too many users on and it becomes uncontrollable, but that's worked quite nicely today. And the other one is on the 13th of April, again at 11:30, we're going to do another half-hour session on safety. We've got a couple of individual organisations going to come and speak about that. Now we're going to carry on in the current environment. It makes sense to carry this on. And depending on the rate of response, I've got quite a good level of interest at the moment. We could potentially do 2 a week. Now, not wanting to conflict with the happy hour on a Friday, because that's working quite nicely. I think at the moment we'll just run with 1, and we'll see where we go. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining in today. Brilliant. Thank you, Ian.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Stuart, and thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and you stay safe and your families are safe and well. And we'll be here same time next week for a little bit that Max is going to lead us and be first at the bar. So good health.
Thanks, everybody.